wonderful YouTubers, welcome to my channel, Tiger Rose Rides. I hope you've been enjoying them so far. Today you see me on my way to Loomies near Petersfield. I'm currently just coming up the A32. A bit of roadworks here and a bit of traffic, but we'll see how it goes. What have I been up to this week? Well, the main thing, I suppose, has to be yesterday for the Remembrance Service. Being a veteran myself, it's very close to my heart. But this year was very special for me. It's the first time I've had a chance to lay a wreath to one of my granddads. He was a desert rat, as you probably heard from the I think it was the second video that I did when I showed you around the bike. And the guy I respected so much. I mean, it was fantastic when I was a kid. He used to tell me jokes and God knows what was going on and little stories, and I was convinced there were monkeys in the little telephone exchange cubby holes. And so yeah, I had a chance to do that, and I also wore replicas of his medals alongside mine. Obviously mine on the left, his on the right, and I felt very proud doing so. So yeah, that was a day for me. That was a real day for me. I think I'll probably put up a couple of pictures in a minute just to show you. Obviously I didn't take any of the actual ceremony, but there were thousands of bikes. I mean, we parked up at Lakeside car park, and just looking across them, you go, good mighty, there's so many bikes there. And when we actually got to Southsea, there were so many more. There must have been thousands there, quite honestly thousands. And finding somewhere to put them all was a bit of a trauma for the staff. But a great day, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Enjoyed the somber moments and everything else that goes with it. And it's always nice to have a chance to give my respects to the fallen. So many of which were my friends, and I miss them greatly. Anyway, let's not get too maudlin. So, what have I got? What else have I been up to? Sorry, I went on HMS Alliance, the submarine. As you probably guessed then, that's this week's local history. The bikes, and I say bikes this week, are Brough and Brough Superior. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing this one because I love Brough, as everyone does. Such a high quality machine. And so Brough and Brough Superior on the list. So I'm looking forward to showing you them. So as I say, I'm on my way to Loomies. Where is Loomies, or what is Loomies? Well, Loomies is a bike cafe. There's no two other ways of putting it. It is a bike cafe, and on a weekend, obviously when no one's at work, the crowds there are amazing. The bikes are amazing, and finding somewhere to park if you come up late is going to be a bit of a task for you. How many will be there today? I really don't know. I'm hoping there will be a few, someone I can chat to, and so on and so forth. So let's see how that goes. But between now and then, what I'll do is I'll go a bit quiet, and hopefully we can get the local history in that little slot, and then I'll do some more filming on the way back. So the local history, enjoy.
And so we move on to HMS Alliance. Building started on Alliance in March 1945 and was to be fitted out for action in the Pacific. However, with the war in Europe ending a few weeks after and the war in the Pacific ending in August 1945, she never saw action in World War II. Before long, tensions between the Allied forces and Russia grew, and for the next 3 decades, HMS Alliance took on several roles in the post-war Cold War era, and hundreds of submariners served on her over the course of the 26-year history. But let's rewind a bit back to 1946. Once her build was complete, she underwent many sea trials of thwarters and barrel and furnace under the mark of P417. And for a brief time, she was in the news in 1947, having achieved a record for the longest passage completely underwater of 3 weeks. and then the powers that be realised that post-1939 radar advances and underwater detection made the old design of HMS Alliance vulnerable to detection above and below the waterline. And so, in 1958, her familiar appearance changed and she was modernised to meet the ongoing demands of new technologies of the Cold War. Outwardly, she became unrecognisable from her original persona. She gained curves, smooth lines, to camouflage her signature and make her stealthier, and was painted in camouflage colours to begin with. She gained more up-to-date tech inside and early computer systems. On my guided tour, which was very interesting, the thing that struck me the most were the cramped conditions, and with a 65-plus crew, it is difficult to imagine how they lived and worked in such restrictions. The skill sets possessed by the crew were amazing, with each task requiring a huge amount of training that would have been very specific to only a few people on board. Also, because storage space was so precious and fresh water was precious, the desalinization units, in other words turning seawater into drinking water, could only maintain enough for consumption, so the men would go the whole trip in the same clothes and not washing. So you can imagine the air would have been a bit ripe, to say the least, but allegedly they didn't notice. So as you walk through HMS Alliance, the array of pipes, wheels, dials and valves is quite impressive, and you can only imagine how well trained those crewmen must have been to operate them correctly. After 7 years as a static training vessel, it was decided that she should be preserved, so in 1978 she was donated to the Royal Navy Submarine Museum. HMS Alliance, the museum and gardens are now a memorial to the submarines and men lost at sea. I did ask if I could take my bike into the ground for photos with HMS Alliance. That was before I was told it was a memorial, so quite rightly I was not given permission. If you do get the chance to go and see HMS Alliance, then do, because it is very interesting, and the more people that go, the more money they have for its upkeep and the longer it will exist. So there's the local history. Hope you enjoyed it. 1902, Brough Motorcycles, headed by William E. Brough in Nottingham, after some early experimentation with motorised tricycles, started making their motorbikes. The first Brough motorcycle was built in 1902 and had a single-cylinder engine hung from the down tube. By 1908, there were a range of models with 2.5 horsepower and 3.5 horsepower single-cylinder and 5 horsepower V-twin engines, all made by Brough. By 1912, there was a 6 horsepower V-twin. In 1913, William Brough developed a flat twin engine in line with the frame. The 497cc engine had overhead valves and fitted with 2-speed gearbox, and by the end of 1914 it had replaced all other engines in the Brough range, and using it only 3 models were planned for 1915. The 3 models were the HS, which was fitted with a 2-speed countershaft gear operated by dog clutches with chain drive to the gearbox but no clutch or gear start was provided. The second model was the HB, which was fitted with a Sturmey Archer 3-speed gearbox, the type you can get in the back wheel of many push bikes, and a handle starter. The third model was the HTT, which was very similar to the HS, but fitted with a specially tuned engine with high compression, lightweight steel pistons, different camshafts, and special front cylinder lubrication. During the war, Brough introduced a larger flat twin of 6 horsepower rating, with 70mm bore and 90mm stroke, which produced 692cc. It shared a lot in common with the earlier 6 horsepower V-twins. At the end of 1918, George Brough had been developing his own ideas on the design of his father's flat twin engine, a new 500cc. So confident was he of his new bike that George Brough guaranteed it to the sum of £100. George, who had been a partner in his father's company, split from it in 1919, in part because his father objected to the costs of the new 500cc engine George had been testing. It was all about the cost. So he started his own factory in Hayden Road in Nottingham. Stuck for a name to call his new company, a friend called Bob Blay is alleged to have said, "Your bikes are better than your father's, so why don't you call it Brough Superior?" Upon hearing the name of the new motorcycle company, his father was reputed to have made the comment, "I suppose that makes mine Brough Inferior." First Brough Superiors were made in the garage of Stockhill Lodge on the Nuttall Road. Stockhill House was where his father then lived. The two sizes of Brough flat twin engine were still in production in 1922 when Brough announced a modified version with roller cam followers, light aluminium pistons, removable valve seats, and an engine base extended to mount the 3-speed Sturmey anchor gearbox. William Brough continued to produce motorcycles under the original Brough mark until 1826. Superior motorcycles and sidecars made by George Brough in his Brough Superior Works in Hayden Road in Nottingham from 1919 to 1940. The motorcycles were dubbed the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles by the motorcycle newspaper. Approximately 3,048 motorcycles spread over 19 models were made in the 21 years of production. Around a third of that production still exists. T.E. Lawrence, also known as Lawrence of Arabia, owned 8 of these motorcycles and died from injuries sustained when he crashed number 7, and the 8th was still on order. Brough was a racer, designer and showman. Convinced he could improve on his father's designs, all Brough Superior motorcycles were high performance and superior quality. Most were custom built to the customer's needs, and rarely were any two the same configuration. Each motorcycle was assembled twice. The first assembly was to fit all the components, then the motorcycle was disassembled and all parts painted or plated as needed. Finally, the finished parts were assembled again, and each motorcycle was test-ridden to ensure that it performed a specification and was personally certified by George Brough. The SS100 model, powered by a Jap engine, was ridden to 100 miles per hour or more before delivery. The SS80 model, also powered by a Jap engine, was ridden at 80 miles per hour or even more before delivery as well. If any motorcycle did not meet the specification, it was returned to the works for rework until it performed properly. The fit and finish was of the highest standard, and they were the most expensive road-going motorcycles in the world. Brough Superior motorcycles have always been rare and expensive. Prices for these motorcycles ranged from £100 to £185 in the 1920s and 1930s. Since the average annual salary in Britain during the 1930s was only £200, only the wealthy could afford them. In 1940, World War II brought an end to production as the factory was engaged on war work, completing crankshafts for Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, but after hostilities had ceased, there were no suitable engines available, so the company was wound up. These days, around 1,000 Brough Superior motorcycles still exist. The 680 OHV, powered by a Jap 680cc overhead valved V-twin engine, approximately 547 were manufactured from 1926 to 1936. The 11.50, powered by a Jap 1096cc side valve, these were preliminarily designed for sidecar and police use. Approximately 308 were manufactured from 1933 to 1940. The model name refers to the horsepower rating of the engine. Superior produced many other experimental show and racing models. These include the Golden Dream. This was powered by a vertically stacked twin crankshaft opposed 4-cylinder engine, and George Brough called this the flat vertical engine, which used a shaft final drive. The bike was finished in gold paint for the London Motorcycle Show, and it was unveiled at the Motorcycle Show at Earls Court in 1938. Brough Superior Austin 4 or BS4. This bike was powered by a modified Austin 7 automobile engine and transmission, as the prop shaft of the automotive transmission emerged in the centre of the motorcycle's driveline. George Brough used 2 rear wheels mounted to a central cast final drive unit. As the rear wheels were within 24 inches of each other, the Brough Superior 3-wheeler was legally considered a motorcycle. It remains the only motorcycle in history to use this configuration. The Brough Austin 4 was intended for sidecar use, and only one was ordered without the sidecar by journalist Hubert Chantry, who had borrowed a factory show model to use in the Land's End trial of 1932. A total of 10 examples were built. The Brough Superior Pendine was introduced in 1927 and had a guaranteed top speed of 110 miles per hour. They were based on the SS100 model, but with higher performance modifications to the engine, and a well-known racer, Barry Barringworth, installed a supercharger on one and is now known as Barry's Big Blown Brough. Noel Pope bought the motorcycle and in 1939 set 2 lap records with it at Brooklands. 107 miles per hour with a sidecar and 124 miles per hour in solo configuration, which exceeded the previous record set in 1935 by Eric Fernhow, also on the Brough Superior. These records still stand as the track was closed in 1939. George Brough was known for his dedication to his vehicles and his customers. He and later Albert Wallace continued to service Brough Superiors after production ceased, making parts until 1969, and to all intents and purposes, production of these bikes never returned after World War II. Moving forward to 2008, vintage motorcycle enthusiast Mark Upham acquired the rights to the Brough Superior name, and in 2013 he met motorcycle designer Thierry Henriette and asked him to design a new Brough Superior motorcycle. 3 months later, the prototype of a new SS100 was shown in Milan. That's it for this bike history. I hope you found it interesting. Remember, if you have a make that you would like me to cover, put it in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Time is short, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be it for this week. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it all. Next week, I don't know what I'm doing yet. Still yet to decide, but I hope I'll see you there no matter what. So take care, ride safe, and I'll see you next week.